Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Wigtown Book Festival's breakfast show with us, the Bookshop Band. We are joined this morning by some very wonderful guests who I shall bring in. I've lost one of them, but I think the other one's going to come back. So we have Chrys Salt, who's the artistic director of the Bakehouse and a wonderful poet and
Morning,
playwright.
Chrys.
Morning, Chrys.
Hi, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. We also have Ned Beauman, the Booker-nominated author. Both of them coming to us from London. It's lovely to have you. And very shortly, no doubt, we will have another guest who has temporarily dropped out, but such is the manner of these things. So we thought that we would start off this morning. I'll let Beth introduce a song to lead us into our first guest.
So we're going to start off with a song inspired by a book called Orphans of the Carnival. Actually, Ben, can you pass me the book, please, by Carol Birch. And we thought we'd choose this one for you, Chrys, because it's kind of got a theatrical element, more of a circus element, I suppose, but we thought it's related to kind of that thing of performing and travelling, which we do quite a lot of when we're not obviously restricted to our home, but we spend a lot of time on the road, so it kind of felt like we related to this quite a lot. But it's about a woman who is kind of a bit of a freak of nature, and she's an orphan. This is why it's for you, Chrys, especially for you. Yeah.
You've chosen this for me, have you? Great.
Just especially for you. Not that element. It just seemed appropriate in other ways. At that point, I didn't know, you know. But this is very much about her, the behind the scenes of her performance life and what that kind of means to be on the road, to be in kind of performing, and to hide yourself away when you're not performing and things like that. But anyway, I think we'll play the song before I get myself into any more trouble.
I should bring our third author on quickly. Just a guest is Lee Randall. Hi, Lee.
Hello, sorry about that. There was some sort of internet drama.
Don't worry at all. Don't worry. We'll play a song to settle us all in. Yeah. Hopefully. This is called Wagons and Wheels. I'm going to take my headphones off. Sorry. Passengers on this journey's long, and welcome to the show. A home from home with sticks and stones. Who knows what's in these bones? Leaving a life of static strife. There's no one left to care. Blue dresses are better when twirled and flattered, with riches in the air. Wagons and wheels, old friends, new deals. Winter or spring, I am hiding. Roads I see you, but towns I see few. Winter or spring, I'll be travelling. But who are you to shout indecency and shame? Shocking, I shock, so lock me out, and I'm locked into this face. A beast or a boy, a monster or joy, might fall into my arms, and I'll love him and feed him and clothe him and see him, and slowly he'll see me. Wagons and wheels, old friends, new deals. Winter or spring, I am hiding. Settling down, might lose the crowd, but I'm ready for a change. Wagons and wheels, old friends, new deals, winter or spring, I am hiding. Roads I see you, but towns I see few. Winter or spring, I'll be traveling. Winter or spring, I'll be traveling. Winter or spring, I'll be traveling.
Lovely. Absolutely lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I would have been in Tasmania
Would have been
last year this
Tasmania.
time. Yeah, I was performing at the Tasmanian Poetry Festival.
Wow.
Almost exactly now. So wagons and wheels. I know we won't be doing much of that, will we?
So you
For a
chose the
bit.
Tasmanian Book Festival over being at the Wigtown Book Festival.
Sorry?
You chose being at the Tasmanian Book Festival over being at the Wigtown Book Festival. I can
Yeah,
understand.
yeah, I did. But I was touring up the East Coast as well, right up to Cairns. And come on,
Right.
Cairns, you know, Wigton.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was last year.
Especially this morning. Especially this morning. It was a beautiful day yesterday here, but now it's very, very miserable, I'm
Horrendous.
afraid
Yeah.
to say. But yeah,
Wow.
you're right. I mean, we've all been doing lots of traveling before now, and now we can't. How does that feel for you to be a bit more
It's
stationary, Chrys?
It is really, really strange. I mean, India, Finland, Australia, Yukon. It's very, very weird not to have all that. I mean, sure, it's the same for Ned and everybody else. Every single launch, reading, festival,
Gone.
gone. So it's really
And does,
nice to be launching the book at Wigton. Can't tell you how grateful I am to give it a bit of an outing. It's
yeah. So
lovely.
tell us about the book.
The book, 2013, I visited the Yukon Festival because we've got some relatives in Whitehorse, which is the capital of Yukon.
Yeah.
And we went up the Dempster Highway to the Northwest Territories Festival, which is about 400 miles over unmade road, built on permafrost, where Caterpillar trucks disappeared and got built over because you can't get them out when they were building it. And it was just, and then I came into contact with various First Nation stories, and the landscape was stunning. I learned about Skookum Jim and the gold rush, and who ostensibly had made the first big discovery that started the big stampede
Right.
at the end of the last century. And I was just absolutely hooked. So came back, started to write a long diatribe in iambic pentameter, which was truly awful. And I thought, I can't do this. And then thanks to Creative Scotland, I got some nice open lottery funding, went back in 2017 and just went to all the places I'd wanted to go, where the gold was discovered in Rabbit Creek. We flew over the Chilkoot Pass, which is one of the dangerous routes to the gold fields, in a sort of tiny plane about the size of a family car.
Yeah.
Wow.
With a lorry driver who insisted on riding shotgun, and a rather scary lady who was a prison warder.
Right.
So they were just wanted to sort of tick a box, I think, say
Yeah.
they'd been. But it was just absolutely fascinating. Gold Rush museums, just. And when I got back, I was able to plug into the First Nations stories and also talk about my own experiences of being there, and sort of trying to get the landscape into my bones, and try and tell the stories for people who didn't know anything about them. So that's what the book is. Skookum Jim and the Klondike Gold Rush came out just as lockdown happened, and it makes a really good doorstop of box of books.
I was totally. I got into the Yukon in a very different way. I
Oh,
don't
did
know if
you?
you know this book, but it's Yukon Ho, Calvin and Hobbes, by Bill Waterston, and like my desert island book is the complete work of Calvin and Hobbes. I think it's the greatest work of modern philosophy
Oh,
that will ever be written. But it's a comic strip. It's a
can you
comic
not
strip.
take mine as well?
I can take yours as
Please,
well.
please take mine as well.
But the thing about this book that got me is that Bill Waterson, who's the illustrator and writer of Calvin and Hobbes, is the most wonderful artist. I adore his paintings, and his paintings kind of often make it into the comic strip. But his Yukon Ho is all about Calvin and his tiger escaping to the Yukon, because it's seen as this sort of inaccessible, end of the world place in America. If you're going to run away to anywhere, you run away to the Yukon. But just Bill's drawings and paintings of the Yukon just made it quite an evocative draw to kind of, everyone wants to run away to the Yukon.
Well, yeah, I mean,
How did you discover it?
well, through our relatives, and it was also, we have Auntie Mary, who is now 103, lives in
Wow.
Whitehorse. We were there for her another big birthday, where she was dancing, singing around the piano, and my husband's cousin was a wildlife warden. He was shooting bears with not with guns, but with darts to track the migration patterns, and caribou similarly. So he was a way in to the landscape, and it was with him we went up the Dempster in a 1989 camper van with signs at the windows saying "Chrys is inside to the mosquitoes," because they are second only to the Amazon apparently.
Really?
They're about that big. No,
Yeah.
well, they're, and black flies and everything that take bits of you and fly off like they've got a mouthful of steak. It's they do like me. So that journey was just amazing. The landscape, because of the minerals, lakes are emerald and orange. We saw moose, caribou. I had a conversation with a beaver. I do speak fluent
Do you beaver?
beaver.
Yeah.
I discovered there is a little film of me speaking to the beaver, and money has changed hands for it not to appear on YouTube.
If anyone finds it, just post a link in the comments. Thanks.
It's not going to happen. It really is not going to happen. So that was my entree in 2013, and after that, I just was absolutely hooked. And there's only about 30,000 people in the whole of the Yukon, which is bigger than the UK, and
Really?
quite a lot. Yeah, it's tight. There's nobody there.
Mm-hmm.
There's absolutely nobody.
Bit like Dumfries and Galloway.
Sometimes, well, it is at the moment. Yes, certainly.
Because Dumfries and Galloway is extraordinary. I think there's only 40,000 people here, and it's bigger than all of the UK put together as well. It's extraordinary.
Yes, I know. It's lovely, isn't it? Lovely.
It is an amazing place.
It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, definitely that sense of the way you're describing the Yukon is a dream for a poet, someone who plays with words and things. It must have been just
it's
and interesting that it took 2 trips to go. Like a first one, and almost not a failed response, but one that didn't quite.
I didn't know.
You knew there was something there, and then you had to go back.
Well, it was Auntie Mary reaching these extraordinary birthdays was really why we were there in the first place. But Philip's got bookcase of books, and I just found myself dipping into them and discovering some of the amazing stories. And it's a story about colonization. And it's a story about destruction of landscapes and people, the First Nations culture being destroyed by the gold rush, and they still suffer from the impacts of that. So the book, which happens to be here,
Lovely.
cover by Deirdre Carlisle, who's a Scottish artist, lives in Gatehouse of Fleet. I've lost the track of my conversation now. What was I going to say? What was I saying? Tell me quickly what I...
You're talking about your book.
Your book,
the First Nation people you were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, the book's dedicated to them because their stories, and there's there is a huge issue of appropriation of stories in amongst First Nations, understandably, because so much else has been taken away. So I've really had to tread very carefully around an issue that's central to Canadian politics at the moment. I don't think I've succeeded. It'd be interesting to know whether I'm able to go back and fight that particular corner, because I think the stories need to be shared.
It sounds like you will go back. It sounds like the kind of place that has a drawer and that you will never discover everything because it's just too much there to be discovered for yourself.
No, it's 5 weeks, I think was the last one, which is a long time, but probably not long enough, really.
Well, it looks like a fascinating book. It'd be really, really lovely to read, and I think for me, just again, another avenue into the Yukon.
Take it to the desert island. Honestly,
all right.
It's a very quick read.
And Chrys, will it be available in bookshops?
It is indeed available in the bookshop, published by my beautiful publisher Indigo Dreams, who are the best publisher I've ever had. They're terrific.
I think there's a link. There's a link on this video to the Wigtown Book Festival bookshop, so people can order it via their local indie. Please.
I'd love people to buy it. Then I might actually eat.
Please buy Chris's.
Please buy my book. Please buy my book.
And just very quickly, Chrys, just before we move on, you're just a tiny bit about the Bakehouse in Gatehouse of Fleet, which is an art centre you run. What's been happening with that? Because you've obviously had as we all have, but particular challenges with art centres.
That's in cold storage. Can't do any events, but the Big Lit, the Stewardship Book Festival, is it will go live. We'll launch it on October the 16th, and we have people like Liz Lockhead talking about Edwin Morgan because it's his centenary this year. We've got Annette Badland, who played Gertrude Stein at the Globe last year, and she's talking about Gertrude Stein and her journey towards that, creating the character. So that Alan Bissett, who's talking about his controversial take on Rabbie Burns, and he's comes with a Big Lit health warning because Rabbie was a bit potty-mouthed, it seems. So I'm not quite sure how that will go down, but
maybe for the breakfast show, we could do a special breakfast show edition. That would work. It sounds brilliant. So it goes live on October the 16th, did you say? And that's
it does indeed.
Big Lit Festival. So I do encourage people to check that out, and maybe someone can pop a link on the description.
Oh yes, we will. Biglit.org. Brochure will be going live fairly soon. Fingers crossed.
Well, Chrys, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
We'll hopefully see you up here at some point soon. Maybe we can.
You won't recognise me though. Heavily masked with a gun.
Same. Thank you so much, Chrys.
It's a pleasure. It's lovely to see you guys.
You too.
So we'd now like to move on to our second author of this morning, Ned Beauman, the Booker-nominated Ned Beauman. It is an absolute delight to see you again. We first met you many years ago in a bookshop somewhere, didn't we?
I can't remember.
You don't remember us?
Which bookshop exactly. I have a kind of gestalt, cloudy overall sense of deep fondness towards your band, but it doesn't resolve itself into individual circumstances.
So we first met Ned. We first met you at Mr. B's when you were doing an event. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Oh, so that was the first one. Okay.
There wasn't some hazy other dark one before that. This is. So we met you when you were touring your book, The Teleportation Accident, which I think was I can say probably our favourite book of that year. And then then and then we met you again up in Edinburgh Festival, Edinburgh Book Festival, when you were doing Glow, and so we've read lots of your books, and I was just saying, I remember this wonderful the event at Mr. B's when we first met you, and you were describing, you were so excited about a scene you'd just written in the library that day, that I think we didn't talk at all about the book that you were, the teleportation accident. We just talked about this wonderful scene involving an octopus that you had just started to create.
Well, it's the thing about publishing, because everything takes so long to come out. By the time you're promoting the book, it feels like ancient history. And then you find yourself talking enthusiastically about a product that won't be on sale for several years and has therefore zero practical value in terms of hyping it.
Yeah, I think we do the same. It's like, you know, you're most interested in the thing you've just created, and so you've had 4 books published now, is that right?
Yeah, 4 now.
And but has lockdown given you a chance? Have you been able to write during lockdown?
Yeah, I mean, I've always beaten my deadlines by months, but I don't know. I think my 4th book, in combination with passing 30, did something to my brain, and I now write at about 20% the pace that I used to, and the result of that has been that for the first time I'm really staring down deadline for my current one. So I have to hand the new one in at the end of January, which I think I am going to make, but only by working pretty much flat out. So in that sense, being able to pretend that lockdown has been a sort of never-ending writer's residency has had some value.
I guess like in a sense, lockdown, it's like all the authors will just be there, they'll be like churning out hundreds of books, this is perfect. And actually it's kind of when you've got that, it's like with us, if you gave us loads and loads of time to do something, we would not do it. If you give us a day to do something, it'll get done, and we'll probably finish it in a couple of hours and go to the pub or have a.
But we've spoken to a few authors who've had very mixed experiences. Some people have said they haven't been able to write anything at all, but they've done a lot of reading instead, and they've kind of, that's the way they've gone. Or some people have managed to write a lot. But I guess it depends how you're feeling at the time and what deadlines you do have.
Yeah, there's a real divide. I see a lot of people like posting on Twitter, I have such loathing and hatred for these people who are able to be productive during lockdown, to the point that I feel slightly timid about even admitting that I've been able to get up and work as normal. But hopefully those people can't find me.
Let's not tell anyone where you are.
Keep it under wraps. Are you allowed to tell us a little bit about what you have been writing?
Sure. It's going to be called Venomous Lumpsucker, which is the name of a fictional species of endangered fish. There is a real fish called the lumpsucker, and there are real venomous fish, but there is no such species as the venomous lumpsucker. No mutants have yet emerged. But so it's a sort of composite species that lives in the Baltic, and the book is set about 15 or 20 years in the future. So it's my first real venture into sort of science fiction, or anyway, near future fiction. And it's about the extinction crisis in general, but in particular, it's about these 2 people who, for different reasons, it becomes vitally life and death important to them that this fish called the venomous lumpsucker is not extinct. So it's about them hopping around the Baltic, just trying to see if they can find any surviving colonies of this fish. So it's quite a weird premise for a novel in that way, but it's a sort of, it's a comedy about the future basically, but also about animals and about extinction.
Yeah. A comedy about the impending actual animal, plant life, biodiversity extinction of this planet.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. It sounds like a great read, as all of your books are. I think I think it will be hilarious, and it will also be pretty harrowing from a real life point of view. And how's it been? Have you gone out? Have you been able to go out and research in firsthand what Baltic backwaters are like, where the habitat of this fish might be?
no, I've never been to the Baltic, and now I won't be able to go before I hand the book in. But as connoisseurs of the incredibly repetitive things I say in interviews will know, I never really go to the places that I'm writing about. So in a way,
you just imagine them and conjure them in your head like an
I just imagine them. So in a way, it's been an excuse for my usual laziness. Although I now feel slightly more ambivalent about that policy, because my fourth book is mostly set in Honduras, and relatively recently I met a guy from Honduras, and he told me he was so happy when he saw that a novel had come out set in Honduras, because no one ever writes books set in Honduras. And then when he found out that I'd never been there or done even the most rudimentary research, he was really disappointed. And I did actually feel pretty guilty about that afterwards. But, you know, it's just my methods. I can't even say 100% that I would have been to Finland without lockdown. So there's definitely no way I'm going with lockdown.
No, it's like, it's not as fun when the world forces you to stick to your kind of writing policy.
Yeah, but I did find a 4-part documentary on Scandinavian television about the coast of the Baltic in HD, which for surely any other living human being is like a parody of the most boring documentary on earth. But for me, it was actually amazing. It was better than going there.
Yeah, it's a fly probably around the coast.
Yeah, loads of drone shots over there.
Yeah, you can't do that in real life.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you did live in Berlin for a bit, did you, Ned? Or did you spend
That's
time
true,
there?
I did, but I sort of leveraged that in the sense that, my second book, The Teleportation Accident, the beginning and the end are set in Berlin, and I wrote the beginning before I'd ever been to Berlin, and then I wrote the end after having lived in Berlin for part of a year. So the idea is that the Berlin of the book kind of transforms from a completely imagination created one to a much more grounded one as the timeline of the book goes on. But again, the whole thing is just a rationalization of my own like weird refusal to get on an EasyJet flight.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely cool. And in a sense, it's like, you know, if you want to write a grounded Honduras based in reality, then you go there. Or if you want to explore what your imagination tells you it could be like, or, you know, then that's going to give you a very different place and probably quite a surreal, magical. I when I was studying philosophy, I refused to read any philosophy books at all. I thought, everyone else was spending ages reading all these books, and I was like, but you'll never come up with anything original. And so my great technique was not to read anything and just to write, and then you get a lot more free time that way. But also it's like, but then I might come up with something original, which you never do. But it was that kind of thing. It was like I didn't want to research it because I didn't want it to affect what I wrote.
Yeah, you're untethered by precedent or boring reality. Yeah.
Exactly. So you're handing in your draft, very exciting, in January or possibly February or March, but January for sure.
Yeah.
And do we have a sort of vague publication date that we can look out for the venomous lumpsucker?
Very vague, sort of early to mid 2022, hopefully, should be. So it feels like a really long time from now, but like I said, that's how it works, sadly.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're very much looking forward to it because we very much enjoy your kind of surrealism and your kind of the timeline. You say that the other books aren't sci-fi, but I feel like there are elements of sci-fi in certainly
sure.
in the teleportation accident as well. And so that's very exciting.
Yeah, and like, it's that surrealness. What was the way I'd describe it? It's like it's surreal fun, but then like really brutally to the point occasionally. Like just really like I love your writing. It's
Nice.
it's visceral and lovely. We thought we would play you a song from one of your previous books, which I do have here. You've all got great covers as well. So this is Glow with.
This one's inspired by the cover.
Exactly. Well, I picked it up and I was like, a book about psychedelic foxes. I'm so excited about this, and then I started reading it. It's not really like
It's not really.
It's a sort of crime thriller set in the real world in London.
People may know it has renewed relevance now because in the book I predicted coronavirus.
You did, yes. Is there a page reference?
I wish I could remember the page number. I can't, but it's in there. I predicted coronavirus pandemic in my novel Glow, which came out years ago. Yeah.
You didn't start it though, right?
Okay, if anyone can find the reference in Glow where Ned predicts coronavirus, post it up because I really want to read it and we can put it out to the world.
Do you want to let Lee back in?
Sorry. Let's let Lee back in.
Hopefully we'll keep you there, Lee. We're just going to play another song and then we'll come to you, Lee.
But there are foxes in it, and it's like, even though it seems to be set in the very real world, there are occasions where, like mid-sentence, it's described that there's a fox sat behind the main character, and then on the top of a London double-decker night bus. And then it just goes back to this conversation that the main character is having, and like everyone seems to think this is perfectly normal, except you as the reader are going like, what is it? What is there a fox? What? I don't understand. And this happens a few more times in the book. And the only impression I could get from it while I was reading it was that maybe these foxes are going to work. That was the feeling we were getting. So the song we wrote is a ricochet from that. And it's imagining that we're these psychedelic, benevolent foxes in the book who are going to work. And when all the good people of the city put their rubbish out for collection, the foxes get together and they tear open the bags of rubbish and scatter the contents all over the road. And they do this for free. They do this because they love us and they want to make us happy. And that was this thought, this is vision as I was reading the book. It's like, what are these foxes doing? Maybe that's what they're doing. So I won't say what they are doing, but this is the song we got from that. And it's called We Are the Foxes. And if you could all caw along like foxes in the chorus, that would be marvellous.
Or beavers in Chris's case.
Yes.
Do my best.
1, 2, 3, 4. We are the foxes working around the town. We are the foxes working for you. Bring out your boxes before you settle down. We are the foxes working for you. Don't be afraid, cause you know what we prefer. Smiling faces, that's what we do. Don't need to pay us, we're happy in our work. We are the foxes working for you. Running rings round covers more. Foxes in a big rush, jumping on a night bus. City lights glow like a light show, keeping strange hours, smelling all the flowers. We're keeping strange hours, smelling all the flowers. We're keeping strange hours, smelling all the flowers. Do-do-do. 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 And in the morning when all our work is done, shifts are changing, you'll be up soon. We'll hear you calling, then we'll be on our way. We are the foxes working for you. Ooh. Thank you. It's quite funny, Ned. Sometimes we play in schools. We get asked to play in schools, to primary schools, and we think, oh, we must play them like the fun songs that they're like. And quite often we play foxes to primary school children, and we hold up the book and say it's inspired by this book, and it's imagining these foxes. And then I remember one time in particular, this young child came up with his teacher.
Yeah,
and
8-year-old boy.
The teacher was like, go on, tell them. And the young child said, the next book I want to read, in fact, I'm going to ask my mum to get it, is Glow by Ned Beauman. I'm going to start reading it tomorrow. And we were like, buy it, but wait until you're 18. There's this great scene with some vodka that you should really wait until you're 18 to read it. It comes with a caveat in primary schools, not because it isn't brilliant. But
absolutely not. It's not.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us this morning, Ned.
Thanks.
So nice to see you. We're both really looking forward to the next book, and I'm going to catch up on the last one too, because we are one behind. And so finally this morning, that brings us to the wonderful Lee Randall. Lee, thank you for joining us for the 7th time this morning.
I apologize. I've been in this accommodation all week. The internet has been brilliant, and today it has decided to go insane.
Well, we all know that the internet is completely dependent upon the weather, and so that kind of makes sense. So Lee, you are well known in Wigtown for being one of the stalwart chairs of the chairing events at the Wigtown Book Festival, and you're doing that this year as well, but in a different way. Is Lee still there? She's holding a very good pose.
She may have frozen. But
so let me tell you about Lee.
Lee is actually in Wigtown, which makes me think, oh, she could just come round. So like, oh, just round the corner.
We'll tell you about Lee. So Lee is an absolutely wonderful American who has made her home up in Edinburgh. This is great. She can't stop me. We could make up anything, couldn't we? We had a nice drink in the pub last night. Lee is also the programmer for the Granite Noir Festival. Maybe if I remove Lee and bring her back on, does that work? No? Okay, fine. Maybe we should play Lee's song and then she can join us.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Let's do that. Okay, so today is Bookshop Day in the UK. We're celebrating bookshops all over the UK, and there's plenty of bookshops in Wigtown and plenty of bookshops all around the UK many of them have opened their doors during this time, and many sadly have not, but it's a chance for us to celebrate bookshops today. So aside from buying Ned and Chrys's books in your local independent bookshop, we will play them a song we wrote about our experience of touring in many independent bookshops around the world, and the song is called A Shop with Books In, and we will bring Lee back in if she returns. There's a story waiting inside behind the door as it opens wide, and I wander in hoping to find something as they tell the stories we know and those we don't are waiting to be held and taken home.
There's a strange man inside, in a shop with books, and who knows what I like. In a shop with books, and he'll rush with tea to my side. In a shop with books, and a stack of books piled high. And if I'm lucky enough, there will be lots of stuff that makes me smile inside. In a shop with books, 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 shop with books, in. knowledge is fast, a hand reaches out, pulls the spine of a beautifully bound book of delights, picked especially for me. Ooh, I'm so in a shop with books, in a shop with books, shop with books, in a shop with books, in a shop with books, shop with books, in a shop with books, in a shop with books, shop with books. Lost in these pages, lost in these pages, lost in these pages, lost in I sink myself into a book and settle down. I sink myself into a book and settle down. I sink myself into a book and settle down. I sink myself into a book and settle down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you guys, so Ned, where is your nearest, or is there an independent bookshop that you would like to give a shout out to, or can you describe your nearest indie bookshop?
I don't know my geographically nearest. I guess Burley Fisher Books in Hackney is a really great one that's like pretty near me that I would like to give a shout out to. They do dog-friendly literary events there, or at least they used to. Yeah, so Burley Fisher.
What's the curious? You've been to loads of bookshops promoting your event. Is there any that springs to mind as a really unusual or interesting bookshop that you've been to that just sticks out? It's maybe having.
Oh man. No, whenever I think about like a really special bookshop, the one that comes to mind is this one I went to in Montreal that I actually can't remember the name of, but it's like half really well curated graphic novels and then half prose, fiction and non-fiction. I think it might be owned by Drawn and Quarterly, the graphic novel publisher. I might have got all of that wrong. Anyway, it is in Montreal, but sadly I've never done an event there. But that's the one that comes to mind. Although I have, of course, done events in dozens of really lovely bookshops as well.
It's that thing of like when you find a bookshop that when they have a particular passion and they curate that, that's such, and you know, in a sense, every bookshop curates what they have because they don't have the space to do everything, and it's really fun when you do see kind of the passions not only of the people who own the bookshop but also the community within where that bookshop is that kind of almost dictate from the outside what books are going to come through, and that it's really special things going into bookshops for that curation that inadvertently or conspicuously happens either way. What about you, Chrys? Do you have a bookshop that springs to mind as?
Yeah, absolutely. The bookshop in Mill on the Fleet, which is our sister venue in Gatehouse of Fleet, is an absolute treasure trove. I mean, it's the guy who runs it can get, if you ask for any book amongst the piles of dusty first editions, he will be able to put his hand on it straight away. Ken Smythe, who runs it, it's been there, changed hands, I think 3 times since we've been in Gatehouse of Fleet. But it's just a treasure trove of books. And here in London, Queen's Park Books, which is not very far away, again, as you say, Ned, this one holds events and often holds events for the Queen's Park Book Festival, which I should have been at this year, but I'm not. But that's another one. But that's neat, and books beautifully laid out so you can find what you want. In Gatehouse, you have to rummage.
Yeah, you have to be
a lot,
willing to pick it. You never,
well
I guess,
worth
in
it.
those kind of things, you never know. Like, you go into a bookshop and you absolutely no idea what you're going to walk out with. But that's
Absolutely. A playwright called Bernard Cox was staying with us, and he wanted Burns's Caledonian Muse, and it was a hand was laid on it. Somebody else was running it at the time. A hand was laid on it immediately, and I don't know how the hell the proprietor knew where it was.
Yeah.
There it was. There it was.
Amazing.
So he was tickled to bits to find that. So bookshops,
Beth, what about
bookshops.
You? Is there a bookshop that springs to mind that you?
There's so many. We've played in so many.
So many in
bookshops,
Wigton, aren't there?
Yeah, and there's so many. Exactly, so many in Wigton. Just here, we've got Old Bank Books, which is
Oh gosh, yes, that's wonderful. Yeah.
Bookshop that used to be our neighbour when we lived the other side of town, and we've got the bookshop. Obviously, yesterday actually I went into. It's not always open. But Julie runs Bookend Studio, and I took Molly in there yesterday, and Julie makes a lot of she makes things out of books and makes things out of stamps and things like that. So you've got lots of kind of crafty, arty things, but then you go through and there's a whole little kind of secondhand children's bookshops with a few toys and things in there, and there's just there was loads of things and books that you've forgotten about from your own past as well, which is always a lovely thing to find, childhood favourite of your own in a book, in a bookshop. And then out the back there's all sorts of others. But yeah, it was nice to go into a shop in Wigtown that I haven't really been in very much because it's not always...
Has reading glasses changed hands? Is it now something else? There's happy memories of reading there.
It's run by Jackie Robertson, and it's just an amazing cafe.
It is, isn't it?
Still
Great
a
soup.
bookshop as well, and great soup.
I never thought I'd say the words, but it does.
I know.
It does fantastic soup. Yeah.
They've added to their menu now as well, and it's really delightful. And she's got a wonderful garden out the back with nasturtiums and tomatoes and things, and she's often taken Molly out there to try little bits of her kitchen garden, which is beautiful. And Belty
books as well.
Yeah,
there's another
curating a Gallic selection for people.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. I was just remembering while we were talking, like the bookshop. Like I think of bookshop sometimes, and how you were describing the bookshop in Millerfleet, there, Chrys. Like you go into somewhere, and they're like little random reset buttons. You don't know what you're going to pull out, but it's like you've got your life. You got your life, and then you just pick out a random book, and it might have an impact, it might not. But I remember Froome Bookshop when I was about, I don't know, 8, maybe 10 or 11 years old actually. And that was the bookshop that I just pulled out a random book, and it was the first Calvin and Hobbes comic book.
I must look up this guy.
And so that action of randomly putting my hand across, pulling out this book, I feel had a big impact on my brother's life, because we both, and my mum actually, because we all got into Calvin and Hobbes as a family, and we all one Christmas we bought each other the entire works, which comes in this heavy tome of Calvin and Hobbes. Each we could take everything back to our house, but that thing of just going to a bookshop and you having a little random injection,
a discovery,
chaos into your life, and it's wonderful. And actually, the bookshop I was remembering as the most sort of chaotically wonderful bookshop was in Northern Ireland, and I can't remember what it's called. It's a bookshop run by an old elderly lady who right next to the university, and when we arrived to play there, she was sat outside, and we were told 2 months in advance that we would find her outside with a bottle of wine, surrounded by young students, all drinking and smoking outside the bookshop.
Surely not.
Indeed, when we got there 2 months later, that's exactly where we found her, with a bottle of wine, surrounded by a cloud of smoke above the table, and all the books on the inside of the shop are kind of collapsed in, and it was basically like a sort of art installation with rats and mice running around the little corridors underneath the books, and it was just the most wonderful gig. there that we had, and it's just I wish I could remember what it was called.
I think maybe that's Bookends or something.
I think
as
it
well.
might be Bookends
But
as well.
What I remember is that the end when she had to catch a train and we were kind of slowly packing our stuff away, and she's basically chucked our cases outside and said, "Right, got to go, bye." And just
Like,
you've got
like
to,
3
everyone
minutes.
out.
Well, you guys travelling around, you've got, I mean, all this equipment. At least we've only just got, a little bag of books.
Yeah, you guys
Or
have
something.
I'm glad you appreciate that.
I do. Cellos,
never
guitars,
have PA systems,
keyboards,
Yeah, there's all sorts of things.
pipes,
Exactly. Children.
trombones.
yeah.
Molly.
We do miss touring, but I have to say we don't miss packing and unpacking the car every day.
Yeah.
3 or 4 times.
You must too, Ned. Miss getting about a bit. Although you obviously don't. You just don't go to Honduras or...
Well, I did used to travel a lot, but I got about a year and a half ago. I got a dog, and at that time, I made the pact with my future that I would basically give up traveling in exchange for having a dog. So in a way, when the pandemic hit, I was like, I've already accepted this. I'm already willing to.
No, I haven't accepted it. I don't like it at all. I want the applause. Bring on the applause or something.
Theatre.
Those little faces looking a bit rapt or not or asleep.
And in these events, you get used to a different thing. We've been doing a lockdown show, and we've had people commenting on, and you get used to a different kind of audience. And this audience could be in America, they could be across the world somewhere. So you have a different experience, and we've kind of got used to it. It's not the same, but it's quite rewarding reading the comments afterward, because a little bit ago and that kind of thing is quite nice, and just to get a connection with people, because connecting with people is so important at this time, and it's quite hard to do that if you're just stuck at home all the time.
So anyway, and other people are so generous, aren't they? I mean, people like all people I met in Finland, people in Tasmania, Australia, India. When you're doing something, they share things. Hopefully they'll share Big Lit stuff, which gives definitely a much wider audience to what you're doing. But your book, I haven't won a Booker Prize. How do I do that?
Neither have I.
Who do I know? Do I know anybody? Can I bribe somebody?
Probably.
But well done. I know you've been nominated. Excellent, isn't it? I'm going to read your books now. I feel bad I haven't.
Fantastic.
Oh, well, if you get a chance.
I know it's really bad. I feel ashamed of myself. And you guys are so well read.
Books out there, so many books.
I know. Who was it? Anthony Burgess said books do furnish a room.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, books make great recording studios. Cover your room.
Yeah,
really excellent. You don't have to read them. Just
soundproofing. Absolutely. Maybe that's why everybody on the telly has all those books.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, Chrys and Ned, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
And
thank
you.
Best of luck finishing meeting those deadlines, Ned. And really look forward to
Thank you for having us.
Speaking of generosity, if anyone is feeling like they'd like to donate to the Wigtown Book Festival, I think there's a link there, or purchase CDs to help us eat. That would be great. And also Ned and Chrys's books will be available via the Wigtown Festival Bookshop as well. So thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful weekend, and if you're watching, join us tomorrow for the last show in this breakfast series, and have a great weekend.
Bye everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.